Thank you so much. Allow me to pray the Catholic way. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. God our Father, we want to thank you for your blessings. We want to thank you for bringing us here today. We want to thank you for calling us to serve you by taking care of your children. Lord, as we are going to be here to discuss what matters, especially with the children, we kindly ask you to grant us your holy knowledge and wisdom so that we may listen to each other, we may share our outcomes, and be ready to learn what you're going to implement when you go back home. May you lead this session, and may your hand guide each one of us. May all glory and praise be yours all now and always. We make this prayer through Christ our Lord. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Thank you so much.
Yeah, just so that we are clear, again, I said earlier that this side event is on advancing inclusive, accessible, and quality ECD services through county-level coordination and investment. And in the context of Kenya's devolved system, the consortium of ECD actors, advocates, childcare providers, faith-based leaders, and representatives from different areas, including marginalized ASAL regions, seek to advance equitable ECD financing and inclusive service delivery. So counties as frontline service providers have the constitutional mandate, and that we understand, to deliver early childhood development and childcare services. So this session recognizes the central role of county governments in ensuring resource allocation, policy implementation, and the integration of services for children aged 0 to 8 years. So strengthening county-level coordination and investment therefore becomes very critical to achieving holistic, equitable, and sustainable ECD outcomes for our children. So I want at this moment in time to invite, like I said, my good friend, the Honorable Commissioner Abdile Yusuf Mohammed, the Speaker of the County Assembly of Wajir, to make some remarks in regard to this, and then let him invite the Deputy Governor to also make his remarks. Let's appreciate our Honorable Speaker. One of these days, I will wear the suit you are wearing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let me first take this opportunity to appreciate the organizers of this side event in reaching out to us. I also want to appreciate and congratulate the commitment, cooperation, and collaboration that has been shown by the various development partners, the teamwork you are doing, the support you are giving to the counties and to the nation as a whole, in trying to ensure that we have a quality and accessible education for the early childhood education and development group. You'll allow me to read a prepared speech, and then probably I'll give one or two takeaways in summary. We have gathered here today because of the future of Kenya's children, especially those living in arid and semi-arid lands and frontier counties. And the decisions we reach today affects their life. The early years of life from birth to age 5 shape everything that follows: the learning ability, productivity, health, and resilience in the face of life's challenges. If we fail to get it right at this stage, we are essentially building our national future on a shaky foundation. I want us to acknowledge the good. Over the past 5 years, counties have made significant efforts. New classrooms are being built for primary learners. Teachers who were once volunteers are now on county payrolls. In some counties, parents are beginning to see ECDE as a right for their children, not a privilege. But while we can celebrate these milestones, we must also confront an uncomfortable truth, and that is too many children are still being left behind. The recent FCDC baseline survey gives us a stark reality check. In our frontier counties, the average teacher-pupil ratio is 1 to 22, nearly triple the national target of 1 to 25. Only 39% of ECD centers have clean drinking water. Household dietary diversity is critically low, with just 9.1% of households meeting adequate nutrition standards. And while 78% of ECD centers provide school feeding programs, nutrition-specific investments account for barely 1.1% of county budgets. When we break down this further, the gaps become even clearer. Kenya spends about $81 per child on ECD each year. The regional average is $138. Yet global evidence shows that every $1 invested in early childhood development can return up to $17 to the economy through better school performance, high lifetime earnings, and reduced healthcare and social costs. So when we underinvest, we are not saving money. We are losing money. Panelists, these numbers point to three critical gaps that we must close. First is the financing of ECDE. While counties allocate around 34% of their education budget to pre-primary education, the actual spending is much lower, averaging 62 to 70% of what is actually set aside for this particular purpose. And the areas most affected by this underspending are the ones most essential to a child's ability to learn, which is nutritious meals, clean water and sanitation, and learning materials. Secondly, is the area of child care provision. Our constitution now firmly devolves this function to counties, but the services are far from adequate. For children under the age of 5, affordable formal childcare facilities are extremely rare. As a result, thousands of young children spend their days with informal home-based providers, many of whom are caring and committed, but lack the requisite training, resource, and proper oversight. And thirdly, is data and accountability. Kenya has a strong systems for collecting health, education, and child protection data, but these systems are not integrated. This means a county may know how many children are enrolled in ECD, but not how many have access to stimulating play materials or how many are meeting basic developmental milestones. These are the indicators that truly tell us whether our children are on track for lifelong learning and well-being. Let's also recognize what is working. The National ECD Policy Framework and Vision 2030 gives us a clear foundation. NACONEC is piloting mobile and climate smart ECD centers that can reach nomadic and remote communities. Development partners like UNICEF, ECD Network for Kenya, the Khan University Institute for Human Development are supporting integrated ECD nutrition and WASH programs. They are strengthening data systems and building the capacity of teachers. But even with these positive steps, the truth remains. These efforts are too small, too fragmented, and too slow to meet the scale of the challenge. The way forward must be county-led, integrated, and bold. It must run on 2 tracks. The first track is service delivery innovation. We can launch triple integrated pilots in selected counties, combining mobile maternal and child health clinics, mobile ECD units, and caregiver stimulation programs. Imagine a health clinic arriving in a remote village, and alongside it, a mobile classroom where children learn, play, and eat a nutritious meal, while caregivers receive training on early stimulation. We must also upgrade wash and feeding facilities in existing ECD centers and expand both home-based and center-based childcare, ensuring every provider receives proper training, resource, and regulation. The second track is systems and finance reform. Counties should institutionalize annual multi-sector ECD planning sessions, ensuring that the next cycle of CIDP, that is from the financial year 2026 to 2027 CIDPs, include costed and concrete ECD projects. The National Treasury, Council of Governors, and relevant state department should jointly develop a transparent national ECD financing framework with conditional grants tied to measurable results. We must also mobilize resources through public-private partnerships, climate adaptation funding, and structured contributions from communities and the diaspora. And importantly, we must make expenditure and results visible to the public through ECD dashboards so that accountability is not just internal, but shared with citizens. Our immediate asks are very clear. Counties should commit budgets for ECD hubs, childcare regulation, and integrated ECDH MCH programming in their CIDP and fiscal strategy papers. The national government and NACONEC should fast-track mobile ECD standards and scale climate-smart school meals across all ASAL counties. Development partners will provide catalytic funding for disability inclusion, integrated data systems, and climate adaptive service delivery. The evidence is overwhelming. ECD is not just a social service. It's an economic imperative. The first 5 years of life determine a child's readiness for school, productivity as an adult, and resilience against poverty. We know what works. We have the policy frameworks. We have successful pilots. What we need now is the political will, coordinated action, and sustained financing to ensure that every child in Kenya from Turkana to Taita Taveta can thrive. Let us commit here today to make ECD a cornerstone of county development, not just in words, but in budgets, in policies, and in the daily realities of our youngest citizens. Let's leave this conference having taken a step forward, a step that will be remembered not for what we promised, but for what we have delivered. Thank you very much. I just want to add one or two items. And this, I do it from a practical, experience-oriented perspective. And I think it's 2 things that we really need to work on. The first one is that many counties have not yet developed a legislative regulatory framework for early childhood education and development. And I will take my county as an example. So we run this sector without a regulatory or a legislative framework. Every county by now ought to have had an act that regulates this sector, but many counties have not yet developed that framework. It would be very good if from this conference we focus on ensuring that we have this framework, because without any framework, then there will be no evaluation and monitoring. And if there is no evaluation and monitoring, then we are not able to measure what we are doing. So I think that's the first thing that we need to work on. The second thing is yesterday, there was a presidential directive commitment that was given by the president that they have unbundled all functions that have been devolved to the county governments, but they are not yet costed. And one of these functions is ECD. Currently, as it is, the money that is set aside for ECD is actually resources that are obtained from what has been set aside for the shareable revenue, and ECD is not inclusive. So probably what we really need to work on is to ensure that our partners, our development partners, and the people who are working in this sector and the departments that are involved to ensure that ECD is properly costed and those resources are made available to the counties, and that will probably improve the quality of early childhood education and development. With these few remarks, I want to thank you all, and I just hope, as I have said, that we must come out with tangible, measurable issues that we can work on for the next 1 or 2 years, and hopefully that will improve the quality of early childhood education and development. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. And I'll go by protocols established. I really thank everyone for coming, particularly to this specific forum. This is where everybody started as a young child, and it is necessary we probably give this the priority it deserves. I equally thank the county government of Homa Bay for hosting this event. It's quite a difficult event to host. We were quite struggling with an event we had in Wajir County some months ago. I think it was February this year, of hosting about 1,000 people. And here we are talking about 12,000 people. So it's not mean fit to hold such an event. So to that extent, I thank the county government of Homa Bay. And I will speak of the CAF. I don't have any written speech, but briefly. And it is during these ages, between the ages of 3 and probably 8 to 13, these are the ages, these are the formative years of any person, any child for that matter. And it is during these times that a child's mental, spiritual, cultural growth is established. It's at this age, probably at the age of 7 and 8, when they ask you questions like, where is God? Dad, why are you late? Can you give me your time? How much are you paid at your job? And there was a joke at some point where a child asked his dad, Dad, how much are you paid per month? And he said $3,000. Then the costing came to about $100 a day. Then he said, if I give you $100 a day, will you give me that day? Fully allocated to me. And you attend to me and all that I need. So that is when they usually ask. These are the formative years, particularly between the ages of 7, 8. And at the point of 13, age of 13, you may have less to do with that child. And by 18, you're done with him. He may have outgrown you and probably moved away as an adult. So back to the topic, ECD classes. ECD as a component of service delivery in our counties. It's not expressly established in the Constitution, but it is established under Schedule 4, Part 2, Section 9. That elaborately explains how and lumps ECD as a role for pre-primary education function for counties, along with village polytechnics, childcare facilities, and homecraft centers. These are functions at county governments. Those 4 particularly, established under, explained under Schedule 4, Part 2, Section 9. But articles in the Constitution that buttress that, Article 43, which establishes the right for education for every Kenyan across, be it of any age, young or old, and Article 53 particularly establishes the right for education for our children. So those are some of the constitutional articles and sections that really buttress the need for having these services in the counties. We have policies that establish and education in particular. But at national level, some counties we have challenges in Wajir County, as explained by the speaker there. Some of the policies, though, establishing this function, of course, one, as I said, is the Constitution of Kenya, 2010. We have the Basic Education Act of 2013. We have the National Pre-Primary Education Policy of 2017. We have the National Education Sector Strategic Plan of 2023-2027, among others. We have CIDPs, we have the Vision 2030, we have many other policies that guide pre-primary education in Kenya. What are the achievements? Some of the achievements so far reached are enrollments that has skyrocketed in most parts of the county governments, particularly in urban centers. Nakuru, Kiambu, Nairobi, some of these centers have tremendously increased. We have about 47,000 ECD centers across the country. And we have about we had about 96,000 teachers by 2019. But a sharp drop happened of teachers, where estimates indicate today that there are about 75,000 teachers, a drop of about 20,000 teachers who have missed the track in one way or another. We need to know why we have lost all those teachers. It is particularly said it has to do with poor remuneration services. It has to do with the scheme of services, that divergent scheme of services that counties do have, which are not harmonized and amalgamated. So most of these challenges do hamper, and they do hamper recruitment of staff, teachers particularly. But we have increased levels of recruitment. We have counties like Nairobi who have gone out of their way to establish specific projects. Dishi in a county, you have heard of that. And this has increased enrollments, particularly in Nairobi County. As Wajir County, we are struggling, yes, but we are reaching about half of our enrollments. We do every year, we have meals. We allocated about 40 million shillings for meals, for early ECD class centers. But of course, that is being shared by even other primary and even sometimes even secondary do share. But we allocate about 40 million per year as Wajir County. But we have, this has categories every county where meals do contribute and make part of the budget. As alluded by the speaker before me, the speaker of Wajir County, remember this ECD as a function is not costed. That needs to sink. It is not costed. When you go to CRA is a commission that allocates revenue as per Article 216 and 217. It is not one of the parameters that CRA uses to cost what is shareable revenue. So it should be one of our pursuits as advocates here to consider ECD as one of the parameters for revenue sharing going forward. So where do we get the money for ECD? It forms part of the basic share of counties. I think the last formula gives about 18% of revenue share going to basic share. So that is where we get these monies to consider our costs and expenses for ECD, meeting our expenses for ECD classes, ECD centers rather. So everything to do with basic, including human resource at counties, ECDs, it fits into that. It's lumped together under that. So it's not particularly costed. This is quite challenging for every county. So some of the numbers, I said we have 47,000 ECD centers across the country. These are public and private, both. It is largely public, but about 15,000 of them are also in the private sector going forward. The numbers of teachers have dropped significantly by about 20,000 because of things to do with availability of funds. But there are institutions that have developed interest, particularly FCDO, right? That have developed interest in ECD education. They have come to Wajir County, I remember, and they are contributing significantly to meeting our expenses as Wajir County, as they do for many other counties. Other achievements are the pursuit to ensure that disability forms part of the inclusion for ECD centers. So it is still at rudimentary stage, but something is being done in that line. And going forward, we hope to establish that this forms a central role, an integral part of ECD centers going forward. We have policy frameworks, as I said, and before I finish on that achievement, we have tremendous improvement on infrastructure on matters ECD. If I take, for example, what I just said, 47,000 centers, for Wajir County, we just launched 2 months ago about 160 classes of new classes, that is 160 new classes for ECD centers. And we are recruiting pretty soon, probably in the next 1 or 2 months, about 75,000 teachers before the year ends, inshallah. So these are some of the achievements made. Of course, challenges, part of them I've touched on. And one, as alluded to by the speaker before me, the speaker of the county government of Wajir, teacher-student ratio, teacher-pupil ratio. We have the remuneration issues that are not harmonized. We need to synchronize the same. The scheme of service. We have issues to do with socioeconomic barriers. This teaching and learning is not standalone. It can't survive alone. You are teaching children who come from homesteads. If the homesteads do not have not only adequate food, but variety and diversity of food, then that hampers enrollment of schools and the children's ability to go to school. So it is a holistic thing. Healthcare, food security, water services, sanitation, and education all lumped together form a good human being, human development index. That's what I mean. So these are some of the achievements made. I've lumped together the achievements and targets, and challenges. What do we need to do? In conclusion, what do we need to do? My call is one, as I said, is to call and push and advocate for the costing of ECD as standalone function. It's one thing to unbundle, but costing is one of the most difficult things. But going forward, let's push that agenda so that we have costing done for ECD classes. Secondly, we need to ring-fence funding of ECD centers. Ring-fencing allows county budgetary allocations to go specific to functions allocated to. This will ensure that we improve not only on enrollment, but the quality of services given at those centers as well. We equally need harmonization of policies and schemes of services. We now do it on a standalone basis. Different counties do and go by their way. So this calls for harmonization such that we have harmonization on remuneration issues. We have harmonizations on schemes of services. So in conclusion, we also need data. Data is data bank, databases. We have now a lot of data, but most of this data are mined from other sectors, healthcare, water, agriculture, many other sectors. So probably one such data specific to ECD and ECD education and development will be quite handy. So without much further ado and belaboring points, I really want to end there and ensure that probably it will come from the plenary here for any questions that may be asked further. But as a county government of Wajir County, we have to conclude on that. 160 classes last 2 months, recruiting 75 new teachers. We have we may not have enough teachers and classes, but we are doing our best under the circumstances. We have allocated 40 million per year. It's not enough. We also have disability fund that caters for the disabled families and ensures that some of them use that money to pay their school fees. These are some of them. It may not be exhaustive. Let me end it there. Asante sana.
Let's appreciate the Deputy Governor of Wajir County, Bwana Mohammed, for his time here. Clearly, as ECD actors and as ECD stakeholders, we still have a lot of work to do with the counties, right? Our focus has to shift from just the classrooms to the whole child, right? And make sure that we can speak a little bit more on that in that regard. But I want to appreciate that they have raised a critical point. Who will help them to cost the services that have been unbundled. So government has unbundled them, but there is need for us to do what? To cost them. So this is something that is critical. So thank you, Bwana DG, and also the Honorable Speaker. Asante sana for the comments that you've made. We appreciate you, and we will just shortly be asking you one or two questions if we have them. But before then, allow me to invite Waziri Dorothy to come and make remarks on behalf of the governor of Tharaka Nithi County. And remember, our focus is on advancing inclusive, accessible, and quality ECD services through county level coordination. So let's hear what Tharaka Nithi is doing, and we appreciate your being here, Waziri Dorothy.
Thank you, my friend Kadenge. All the protocols observed. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dorothy Naivasha. I am the County Executive Committee member in charge of education, vocational training, gender, social services, tourism and culture in Tharaka Nithi County. And I'm very privileged to be here today to represent my boss, who is in a panel, Matters Digitizing Health. So his apologies, but I have his keynote address. I'm going to read it as is. But before them, I appreciate the summary that has been done by the Deputy Governor Wajir. I think he has captured almost everything, matters ECD and what affects us. And the critical thing actually is on the funding. Where the rubber meets the roads, it's on the funding. How I wish we could get the guidance on how to unbundle that function and have it costed rightfully. Because I know with the right finances, the counties are much, much more willing to do much more and much better for the child. So allow me at this juncture to read the address, the keynote address of the governor. Ladies and gentlemen, childcare and ECD are not optional social programs. They are critical foundations of human capital development. Research shows that the first 8 years of life shapes a child's health, learning, and future productivity. Globally, according to the World Bank 2021 report, better jobs and brighter futures that worked on investing in childcare to build human capital. Over 350 million children under 5 lack access to quality formal childcare, and more than 60% of working mothers in low and middle income countries lack reliable childcare support, forcing many women to leave the workforce or rely on unsafe informal care. In Kenya, the 2025 State of Education report by Zizi Afrique and Usawa Agenda reveals that 7.4% of children nationally enter grade 1 without attending any ECDE program, with exclusion rates as high as 51.4% in Mandera and 33.3% in Marsabit, indicating a deep regional inequalities. The 2022 Kenya Demographic and Health Survey also shows that 18% of children under 5 are stunted, and which is an improvement from 26% in 2014, and the DG has actually touched on that. But still, there is a concern in areas with persistent child poverty. Meanwhile, women in Kenya bear the heaviest childcare burden, spending 4.6 times more hours on unpaid care than men. In rural areas, only 73% of children aged 24 to 59 months are developmentally on track, compared to 87% in urban areas. A pilot study in Tharaka Nithi County, conducted in collaboration with Kenyatta University, confirmed that the lack of formal childcare services is a significant barrier to women's economic participation and mental well-being. These insights emphasize the need for integrated policy approaches, including the establishment of affordable childcare facilities, the inclusion of childcare responsibilities in labor policies, and the urgent formulation of national care policy to recognize and redistribute unpaid care responsibilities. In Tharaka Nithi, again, in collaboration with Kenyatta University, again, the Yale University, Bangor University, University of West Indies, Kenya National Bureau of Statistics and the Gates Foundation, who are our main sponsors, we are conducting a randomized control trial, RCT, that aims to impact a preschool, that seeks to assess the impact of a preschool enhancement intervention project on women empowerment and child development by allowing 3-year-olds in the public primary schools. Their entry into these public primary schools has been covered by a Child Care and Protection Act passed by the County Assembly of Tharaka Nithi, allowing the legal existence of playgroup class as part of the preschool. I'm sure most of us know only 4-year and above are allowed in school. The schools have been provided, one, with materials that are made locally, underline the word locally, in the county, making them cost effective, and the project has hired and trained teachers for the intervention who are also supported to deliver a modified curriculum for the 3-year-olds by a team of mentors. The intervention has enabled the mothers of the young children to join the labor market, while others participate in other informal income-generating activities that includes farming and all. The midline results of this study demonstrated that the intervention is indeed yielding measurable and transformative impacts. Women now report increased time to engage in economic activities, thus achieving significant developmental milestones, which include emergent literature, emergent numeracy, and social emotional skills and motor skills. Indeed, partnerships with researchers have been particularly impactful. By generating reliable, disaggregated data, our partners have helped us understand what works, where gaps exist, and how to prioritize limited resources. Data from research has directly informed our county's decisions on ECD planning, financing, and monitoring, ensuring that interventions are not just well-intended, but evidence-based and results-driven. When decisions are guided by data and science, they are more effective, more inclusive, and more sustainable. Equity in ECD also means responding to children's nutritional needs. All these things have been mentioned by the DG. That is why we must advocate for a structured school feeding program integrated into ECD policy frameworks at both the national and county levels. Such programs are not only improve attendance and concentration, but also provides critical health and economic benefits to families and communities, in especially food insecure and rural regions. Key partnerships with stakeholders from various ministries such as health, nutrition, and agriculture are also critical in ensuring that our children are both healthy and prepared to learn. But no county can walk this journey alone. Collaboration between national and county government is essential, especially in developing harmonizing policies, standardizing quality benchmarks, and building ideal ECD infrastructure across the country. Children should experience seamless services from birth to school entry, regardless of where they are born. This demand aligned investments, shared accountability, and co-created solution. We must also reframe how we view ECD financing. Childcare and ECD financing should be prioritized because they are strategic investments with long-term returns. Every shilling spent on early years yields dividends in reduced dropout rates, lower healthcare costs, improved economic productivity, and gender equity. Inclusive budgeting must therefore be predictable, protected, and prioritized. Our vision should include innovative financing models that go beyond traditional allocations. These include private-public partnerships, outcome-based financing, and ring-fenced county budgets. We must also build capacity at all levels of budget execution and tracking to ensure funds are not only allocated, but used effectively and transparently. As we gather here today for the dialogue and reflection, let us be more than another convening. Let it mark a turning point for action. Let us commit to shared learning, policy innovation, and a strong national ECD financing framework that serves the Kenyan child. And finally, on behalf of the governor, I want to reaffirm that Tharaka Nithi's county commitment to championing equitable, inclusive, and well-financed childcare programs. I invite all the other counties to experience the preschool intervention program that has stimulated and enhanced learning among our young ECD learners. We are ready to share our successes, learn from others, and partner boldly to create a thriving childcare ecosystem for all the children in Tharaka Nithi and also in Kenya. For when we nurture our children, we nurture our nation. Thank you all, and God bless you. Asanteni.
Thank you. A big round of applause for our minister, our CCM. She has made these remarks on behalf of Governor Njuki Muthomi, who was meant to be here but is not around. But thank you for pointing out that we need to reframe how we view financing. We need to be able to talk about ring fencing. At the end of the day, when I listen to the three speakers, I keep asking myself, what should we do to make them do it? Isn't that a good question to ask? What should we do to make them? Bana Speaker, I am wondering, when you are making recommendations here, you are in charge of that nice house that has now been given autonomy. We will come to Ajia to look at how you will have enacted those things. But we thank you, and I appreciate that Tharaka Nithi is open for other counties to go to so that we can learn. That's a very critical, open opportunity for all of us. We need to establish those childcare facilities because that's our mandate. We will be listening to a study on that in a short while on childcare, and we want to be able to get to that. But before we get there, we have the CEO of the National Council for Children's Services. You heard the county government speak. Now we want to hear the national government speak, and we want to invite the CEO, Abdinur Sheikh, to come and make his remarks. But as he does so, we also recognize the arrival of Madam PS. I think Waziri did it on my behalf, so we just want to appreciate you having made time to be here with us. Appreciate you so much. We know that we have many CECs here in the room. They will be introduced to you in a short while when you come up to make your remarks.
Thank you, Chairman and the MC Mr. Kadenge. PS Children's Services, the Deputy Governor, Wajir County, His Excellency Ahmed Mohamed, PS Karen Agengo of Children's Services, Mr. Abdullah, the Speaker, the many CECs who are in the house, all distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I may not be presenting what is there, but just for introduction, I am the CEO of the National Council for Children's Services. The vision for this council is a protected and empowered child. Our mandate is to regulate, supervise, advise, coordinate, mobilize resources for the realization of the rights and welfare of the child. This is an institution established by a very important act. The Deputy Governor has not recognized that very important act, the Children Act, Cap 141 of the laws of Kenya. We cannot be talking about children without recognizing the Children Act. Section 41 and 42 exclusively create, establish, and assign roles to this council. Earlier, the MC, a friend of mine, Mr. Kadenge, met me where I was sitting, knowing that when it comes to children matters, my passion usually overtakes the time I'm given. He warned me that I should be very brief. But before I go to reading or giving my statement regarding the subject which I was given, I would wish to mention a few things. For one, the council is a regulator, as I said. Also, another role of the council is coordination. Another role of the council is oversight. And another role of this council is also advisory. Please continue. We may not need to belabor this much on. Continue, and thank you. Now, policies have been mentioned regarding the child, ECD policies. Over the years, there were several ECD policies. Finally, what we have in place is an integrated early childhood development policy, an ICD policy. However, we expected by now we'll be up implementing, but just recently we have had some comments and advice from the cabinet that we needed actually to beef it up with some more issues, especially regarding issues of disability, children with disability, ECD teachers, and so many things. Good luck. We have convened an intersectoral team, not only for those concerned agencies, but of all agencies, plus stakeholders from the civil society and development actors. And we have acted with speed and again taken it back for cabinet. Colleagues, in all discussions, as we had been listening, thanks to the earlier speakers, thank you, my governor, thank you, my speaker, thank you, Madam CEC. What we have had is all good news, as Kadenge had said, but what we really need to make sure that there is implementation. It is like that, the story that the deputy governor had given us of the child who wanted to contract the time of his dad is also true for our implementation and practices. We have forums, very good things come out of it, but in the end, again, we don't find that reflecting our child. Just recently, I think last month, we have had a very nice 6th ECD conference in Garissa. There was a very beautiful communique which came out of there, and it was summarized in only about four items, which I feel if we can really achieve for our children, it will be all well done. In terms of definition of early childhood, we have had, for some of us, especially from the health sector, 0 to 5 is the key thing. For those of us who practice in the education sector, we talk of 0 to 6. However, for those of us from the Child Protection Center, we talk of the tender age child of 0 to 10. But good luck now, we are at a common consensus that the early childhood child whom we are focusing on is the child of 0 to 8. And that means it's also of a benefit to our child for 0 to 8 to be focused on. Mine was on policy and the systems development in child protection and early childhood development. Much as it relates to the general theme which is there, but it was a specific issue. On to the point now, ladies and gentlemen, and all distinguished guests, it's my pleasure to address you at this important early childhood development side event. The significance of the topic of discussion that I was given is manifested in the many words, as you had seen also in the program, in which it was presented. Keenly observing, however, the key words on the topic which need to be underlined are policy leadership, system strengthening child protection, and holistic early childhood development. Contextually, my discussion will focus on national level interventions. Nevertheless, we ought to appreciate county-specific approach, adaptation, and application. As we break into this important reflection session, it is vital that we underscore our collective honors to build a resilient and inclusive system that nurtures each child's potential. In line with my assignment of the day, I will share some insights on policy leadership and system strengthening, with highlights on the steps that the National Council for Children's Services is undertaking in Kenya. Appropriate policy leadership embodies a firm backbone for holistic early childhood development and protection. It provides the framework within which all actors, state and non-state actors, the private sector and communities observe for comprehensive and precise operations. This means now strong and coherent policies create the necessary enabling environment that promotes accountability, that harnesses multidisciplinary collaboration, that creates a synergy, that ensures holistic service approach, which also affords us inclusivity and accrues great cumulative gains for our grand client here, who is the child, and the early childhood child. We took cognizance that sustainable progress precedes visionary leadership that prioritizes children's needs across all sectors. which aligns resources and fosters multi-stakeholder collaboration. Furthermore, the fast evolving landscape of children's rights demands that our policies are not only comprehensive, but versatile and adaptive to the emerging encounters that we meet every day. We need to be alive to the shocks and threats of such challenges like the COVID-19 pandemic impact, which is still with us, climate change and climate issues, urbanization, technology, which are double-edged sword, and all what we are here looking at is the rise of technology, but at the same time also on how best to get its good side. Economic disparities, and of course, as has been earlier mentioned, socio-cultural, cross-cutting, generational conflicting norms among an increasingly endless list. What therefore this reality demands is to put in place clear policies informed by this prevalence as we encounter them, that must in turn translate to better service delivery, improved coordination, meaningful collaboration, and ultimately quality outcomes for our children. However, policy alone is not enough. A solid functional system requires capacity at multiple levels. Policy design, institutional structures, community engagement, and resource allocation. While Kenya has made commendable progress, challenges remain, including coordination gaps and limited funding, as has earlier been mentioned also by the earlier speakers. However, at the National Council for Children's Services, in congruence with our vision of a protected and empowered child, our goal at the Council is to foster a resilient, integrated system that safeguards every child's right and promotes their holistic development. To this end, our focus is ensuring that health, education, social protection, justice, and all sectors are well coordinated and mutually reinforcing each other. To strengthen our policy and system landscape, the National Council for Children's Services has spearheaded the review and harmonization of early childhood policies to eliminate overlaps and address gaps. Recognizing that effective policies require strong implementation, we're actively engaging in advocacy to sensitize government agencies, local authorities, and communities on the importance of child rights and ECD. We cherish integration of child protection, encompassing all the principles of the Convention of the Rights of the Child in all relevant policies and programs. We therefore are not only focused to development, but we appreciate development, protection, participation, and survival of the child. As I close to my closings, no single actor can achieve this agenda alone. That's why the Council prioritizes building partnerships across government ministries, development partners, and governmental organizations and communities. These collaborations are essential for advancing policy advocacy, mobilizing resources, and fostering innovative solutions tailored to the local context, which is actually what gives us the win. Looking ahead, NCCS remains committed to leveraging on technology for data-driven decision-making. This includes establishing an integrated national children database, as has earlier been actually mentioned also by His Excellency the Deputy Governor. We esteem to inculcate the value of the right-based approach implementation in all policies, and highly prize every child's voice to be heard and protected and respected. Our aspiration is a Kenya where every child, regardless of background, is safe, nurtured, and empowered to achieve their full potential. Above all, policy leadership and systems strengthening form the foundation for achieving our broader goals of child protection and child care, comprising holistic early childhood development. This endeavor, however, cannot be attained single-handedly. It therefore involves sustained commitment, innovative approach, and all as one, all the time collaboration. The council shall continue giving leadership in this agenda of the child with all the zeal and in line with Section 8 of the Children Act 141. That's in the best interest of the child, whilst working hand in hand with all stakeholders. Now and ahead, I wish to affirm once again to you that the council's zeal to remain steadfast as the national regulator in strengthening systems and policy leadership. Together, let us renew to secure the best for our children, one that is built on strong policies, resilient systems, and responsible shared participatory engagement. Pamoja tuboreshe malezi ya watoto wetu na tukumbuke wahenga walisema zamani umoja ni nguvu. Asanteni sana.
Thank you very much, Bwana CEO. A big round of applause again for the CEO, the National Council for Children's Services, Abdinur Sheikh. Those who were in the Garissa conference, what was the Swahili name for early childhood development? Malezi na makuzi ya awali ya mtoto. Sio? Nakumbuka hiyo? Kiswahili sanifu, eh? Because we are in a place where we also need to teach them Swahili. Yeah. All right. So let me take this moment to appreciate the presence of some CECs in the room. Could I just see them if they are in the room? Wale ambao wako CECs, simameni, tuwaone.
My name is CPA Lawrence Rweria, the CEC in charge of finance, Tharaka Nithi County.
Again, I'm Dorothy Naivasha, CCM, Tharaka Nithi County, Education, and all the other ones that I mentioned. You see why I carried finance, eh? Now you understand.
Thank you. Madam Pierce, Deputy Governor Wajir, the Speaker Wajir, if I remember very well those that were here, other participants like myself. My name is Engineer Agnes Wachir, CEC Education and Vocational Training, Bungoma County. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Ambaro Abdullahi Ali, the CC for Education, Marsabit County.
Asante. I'm told that you sat at the back because you are okay, but it's allowed for you to remain there. So asante sana. There's chief officers who are in the room. Can we recognize you, chief officers? Please stand. Asante sana. Kuna wawili kuja na microphone hapa tafadhali. Anzia pale nyuma. Asante.
Yeah, Dominic Lubavo is my name, Chief Officer Education and Vocational Training, Vihiga County.
Asante sana, Bwana Lubambo. Karibu sana.
Good afternoon. My name is Kenywa Kabinga. I'm the Chief Officer of Finance and Economic Planning, Tharaka Nithi County.
Tharaka Nithi has brought finance, brought economic planning. Huko tunakuja kusoma.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir. I
am Abd Ali, Chief Officer Education, Garissa County.
Thank you. Garissa, our recent host. A big round of applause for them. Asante sana. I think, Madam PS, you've met the Deputy Governor and you've met others who are in the room. So those are some of those. But we have partners in the room. And one of those partners has now got the time to come and tell us about something that they have done, which is very innovative. I've heard us talk about childcare services. But how many of us know about home-based childcare? We want to hear from the CEO acting of Nurture First, Cindy Lithimbi. She's going to talk to us about a study that they conducted in 3 counties. Those 3 counties will actually be identified.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for taking the time to join this side event. My name is Cindy Lithimbi. I am the strategy manager. I have been promoted by Oscar, but I am the strategy and program manager for Nurture First. Nurture First partners with county governments and national government to design responsive policies and programs for the informal childcare sector, where we believe these are the most precious asset that we have as a country, and this is what we're focused on. This presentation will cover a mapping that we did in 3 counties, that is Murang'a, Mombasa, and Kisumu counties last year in 2024. We did not do this alone, so I just want to briefly also recognize the partners that were involved in this. In Kisumu, we worked very closely with KMET. So if there's anyone from KMET here, Dr. Monica, thank you so much. Abella, thank you. We worked very closely together to do this work in Kisumu. In Murang'a, we worked with the Catholic Diocese of Murang'a and Stahili Foundation. In Mombasa, we worked very closely with the county government, our very good partners. Nice to see you, Madam Zalefa. So as has, first of all the protocols observed, as we have already established why we are here and why this matters is because ECD and early childhood development forms the basis of foundational outcomes, positive outcomes for children and adults alike. If we invest in 0 to 3s, we'll have better education, health, and income outcomes for children. It goes without saying that without these investments, children become adults who simply do not reach their full potential. And as a country, Kenya, we will not reap the demographic dividend that we ought to. I think the one truth that I'd like to really stress at this point is that I think we enter into this discussion with the assumption that care and the primary responsibility and the only people who are spending time with children are families, and mothers in particular. And the reality is that that is no longer the case. Mothers are going to work, family needs two incomes, and so children are increasingly spending the majority of their waking time in some form of childcare, whether familial or non-familial. And so just what do we mean by childcare? If we move to the next slide. So there's two main categories that we can talk about. We can talk about center-based and we can talk about home-based. Basically what it means, these are daycare centers offering services for 0 to 3. So this is before children are attaining the pre-primary age of it, which is 4 years. Centers can be both informal and formal. Homes are largely informal. And the difference is where they are happening. In centers, they're happening in purpose-built facilities, and they can be within ECD institutions or religious institutions. In home-based childcare, they're not in purposeful facilities, they're in providers' homes. And so I think it's important that we recognize that we're speaking about daycare services for 0 to 3-year-olds. Next slide, please. And so together with the partners I've mentioned, we did a study in 3 counties, and we were aiming to reach 25% of the estimated provider population. And so in total, we were able to map 5,400 informal home-based childcare providers, caring for roughly 22,000 children. I think those numbers, we just need to let them sink in. That is a huge number. And I think one of the key insights for us was that I think we went into it thinking that this would be an urban phenomenon only. But actually what we saw is that there is equally a high demand, if not slightly higher, in rural settings as well. So this is a conversation that is relevant no matter which county you're in, because it happens across the rural and urban divide. Next slide, please. Another thing then for us to highlight is the age distribution of children in these centers. So we know that the most critical window for children, for development of children, is 0 to 3 years. We know that 80% of the brain is formed by the age of 3. So this is a very vulnerable population. Within the home-based childcare centers that we mapped, we found that almost 1 in 5 children is under the age of 1 year. And in fact, 5% were under the age of 6 months. 43% under the age of 2 years, 71% or so under the age of 3 years. Okay, they are spending significant 7 to 9 hours on average a day in very, very close contact and engagement with the provider, the childcare provider. The key takeaway here is that we really cannot afford to ignore the role of the childcare provider in determining the lifelong outcomes for children. And so they need to be recognized and integrated. As much as we are focused on formal institutions, there is a huge service here that is being provided in the informal sector. And our children are in these settings and are vulnerable at a very vulnerable time. Next slide, please. And so building on that, we looked at the skills gap, the current skills levels of home-based childcare providers. And really what we found is that 93% of them have had no form of ECD related training. Only 7% reported having had some form of training, and this ranged from having short first aid courses to having formal certificates in ECD-E. And actually, I think the deputy governor mentioned that there's 20,000 gap in the teachers, ECD teachers. What we found is of those 7% of home-based childcare providers that have been trained, majority of them were actually former ECD teachers. When we asked what type of training and information would you want to be able to carry out your work and to be able to provide optimal care for children, nutrition was the highest at 88%, followed by health, and then thereafter safety and security. So we saw a very big desire to learn and to recognize that there is more that they can do. Next slide, please. On to typical daily routines, which really revealed an opportunity to improve knowledge on all aspects of nurturing care. What we found is, it's quite small, but the top two categories, say feeding and sleeping. And what we found is that providers are over-indexing. They're spending more of their time feeding and putting children to sleep and watching them as they sleep. However, much less time is really focused on interaction, early stimulation activities, playing with children as well. And so when we talk about resources and training that is required, we also have to be very specific. Early learning and responsive caregiving as two key components of the nurturing care framework are required, as well as access to children's resources, play materials, age-appropriate play materials. And then lastly, next slide, we looked at the infrastructure. We really think of quality in terms of process and structural quality. And so we conducted some observation visits in all 5,400 providers that we mapped. And what we found is that there is really room for improvement here. We found 62% do not have fenced homes. They're living with other family members. 58%, which is almost a third, 2/3, prepare hot food in the same room that they're looking after children. Designated hand washing area. These are just some of the quality indicators that we were looking for. Bearing in mind, as we have heard, that there is no minimum quality standard guidelines that exist for this sector. So despite providers saying this was the least of their challenges, actually attaining and adhering to any form of standards, we noticed that there is a lot of room to improve. However, we need to do so with feasibility in mind and really think about what are the biggest drivers of positive outcomes for children. So on to understanding the demand. When providers are asked, what is the main occupation of most parents whose children you care for? What we found is that majority of, and I think what we can also, many of us will know, that there's high levels of economic vulnerability amongst the parents and the communities that these providers serve. They're engaged largely in manual labor, in informal work, and as a result, these are low-paying and very unstable jobs. I think the other thing to say is that I think we often enter this conversation, and unfortunately also due to the media, I think the stories that get out the most are that a lot of parents are neglecting their children in these settings, and actually what the data is saying is that this is not, parents are not in all cases neglecting or going for what we say is fun times and leaving their children, but really the major driver and the demand is coming from a need to engage in economic activities. And so parents themselves, families are the most economically vulnerable that are served by this population and need support as well. But because they have unstable incomes, what we find is, the next slide, is that the ability to pay, even in the informal sector, where it's roughly 50 to 100 shillings per day to look after a child. Next, please. What we find is that almost half of the providers report that parents are not able to consistently pay that 50 to 100 shillings. As a result, 51% report that they're using their own resources as providers to be able to care for these children. And when we ask further, what do you spend this money on? It's things like diapers and it's food for children, because as we remember from a previous slide, 41% of providers are also providing food for these children. The parents are not sending them with food, so providers have to cook. So you might ask yourself, what's the main motivation? That was what we asked us. So what is the main motivation? Why would they? Is this a business opportunity? Are they seeing it as a way to establish centers and grow? And in some cases, I believe this is the case. But really what the data is also saying is that they began because they were approached by someone in the community. A neighbor came and said that they need to go to work. Or there were children that were abandoned by parents and began offering some form of longer-term alternative care. 17% said passion, we categorize as passion, and 13% said there was a lack of other options. It was just economic necessity. They were either widowed or they had an accident, or those are some of the examples that forced them to be able to now look for alternative income. And so I think the key message is that whatever providers are able to take away at the end of the month is not enough to deliver the care that they're currently delivering, which we also know is not optimal. It's not the full 5 dimensions of the nurturing care framework. They cannot provide nutritious food with what they're getting. They also cannot provide appropriate play materials. They began offering this service out of a community need. So we have a tendency to think that this is a business, we need to extract some resources, or they should be able to afford these things, or they should close down. There is a need in the community for this that they are filling. And so it goes without saying that external investment is needed, investment and support to allow them to deliver the optimal care that children need. And if we don't, it's unsustainable. If we force them to increase their prices, the parents will not be able to afford it. So there has to be some form of investment, subsidy to support this sector. Lastly, so many of the recommendations have been spoken of already. I'll just highlight that the Speaker of the County Assembly of Wajir mentioned that legislative frameworks are lacking for ECD sector. Specifically, I think even for childcare, it's even worse, okay? Financial year 2023-2024, there were only 4 counties, based on COB reports, that had a childcare program or sub-program with the word childcare in it, okay? It is 10 years after devolution. So we have some work to do as partners. As this coalition that is here, we have some work to do there. But if we were to just think of what we could do as a concrete next step, there needs to be a process of really understanding the current landscape of childcare delivery. As we say, there's both home-based and center-based, there's school-based. And so we need to recognize what is already happening. And then we have so many good examples of what could happen. We've had so much about Tharaka Nithi, we've had CRS, Kidogo, all doing fantastic things, Aga Khan University as well. So there are models of effective programs that we could partner and work together with county governments and the directors and the CCs in this space. We'd love to discuss further how we can work together really to build on what has been demonstrated to work. Okay. And then it's about institutionalizing the sport. We've spoken about policies. So the key is that we really need to advocate for supportive policies. As we say, this service already exists. And there are others who have actually been championing that I see here for years, decades before we came to this space, that we need supportive policies, not punitive policies, but recognizing, of course, the safety and protection of children is paramount. And then as a clear call to action, and I think has been mentioned here already, there are existing services that exist that could be extended for home-based childcare providers. We have seen the Mombasa County extend vitamin A and deworming through informal home-based childcare services, able to reach thousands more children through these centers. Similarly, there are services that are provided by national government agencies, other ministries, department agencies. And so if we start by extending what is already there and really focusing on what we can move the needle on right now, which are the process indicators, not necessarily structural and physical attributes of childcare facilities, these are the knowledge and the practices of childcare providers, I think we can start to make a difference and to speak to some of the tangible goals that we can achieve together, as was mentioned earlier. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Cindy. I think there's a lot to chew on and a lot to work on. Even if we don't acknowledge it, home-based care is happening. And if we are not regulating what's going on there, if we are not supporting the caregivers, then we actually have a big gap in terms of just ensuring that child development happens in the right forum. So I want to take this opportunity to appreciate all the speakers that have come here. I noticed that 2 of them are possibly not in the room anymore, but we shall get to the point of appreciating all of them. So allow me to now call to the front our panel for this afternoon session. We have a panel, and I would want to request your indulgence even as we bring them up. Our panel will address a couple of questions. Amongst the panelists that I have today, let me begin with Professor Teresa Mwoma, who is an associate professor in the Department of Early Childhood Development, and also Special Needs Education at Kenyatta University. So she's currently seconded to the African Council for Distance Education as the Executive Director. Karibu sana, Prof. We will appreciate you more. Abdullahi has left, unfortunately, because he had another pressing engagement and had to take a walk. I don't know if there's somebody else representing the FCDC in the room. Okay. I want to invite Martin Kieng. Martin Kieng is currently the Partnerships Manager at Kidogo Early Years. A round of applause for Martin. Kidogo Early Years is where he is at the moment. He has over 10 years of experience in social enterprise development, particularly in childcare, an area that we've just been speaking to. And then we have Jacqueline Chebi. Jacqueline is the program manager for the early childhood development docket at the Catholic Relief Services. Karibu sana. She is one that has been in this space for over 14 years. So she's a teenager in the space and is coming to give us insights on this particular space. Karibu sana, Jacqueline. And then we have Lynette Kaloki. Lynette Kaloki is, she's an ECD specialist working with the Aga Khan University, the Institute for Human Development. And she is currently responsible for the work around ECD as a specialist there. Allow me to introduce Sally Mora. Sally is an early childhood development researcher, advocate, and leader with the World Forum Foundation. All right, so this is the panel that we are going to have for the next few minutes. There are a couple of questions that I would like us to engage in with them. And if you allow me, I want to begin with Jacqueline from CRS very quickly. Share your insights into how CRS has worked with faith-based organizations and county governments to promote the best practices within the childcare and early childhood development sector. Very briefly, in under 3 minutes. Okay, 4 minutes.
3 minutes?
Okay.
For CRS?
Okay.
Anyway, I'll try. CRS does a lot, and just not in the ECD space, also in the health space, but I will just narrow down to ECD and what we've been doing with the faith-based organizations. We are so big in engaging religious leaders from different faiths, that is the Christians, Muslims, and Hindu. We do a lot of capacity building with the faith leaders to just help them understand what ECD is, nurturing care, and how to use the Holy Scriptures to do a lot of rooted advocacy. We've been very keen in ensuring that our faith leaders work together with the government, because in most cases that we've been engaging, we know that faith leaders are known to always comfort the community and not stand out to actually make pushes to the government in terms of implementing the policies that have already been enacted. We've also been keen in ensuring that faith leaders that we're engaging after capacity building them, they are part of different committees, technical working groups at the county level. I would like to point out Kisumu County for being so generous to embrace our faith leaders and even engage them when it came to development of the ECD Act regulations. And in the same breath, as much as we're working with all the faiths, we also narrowed down to the Catholic Church. We are in Kenya by the invitation of the Kenya Conference of Catholic Bishops, and we have a soft spot for the church. So we work very well and closely with the Catholic sisters in ensuring that nurturing care practices are embedded in our community where we know that the sisters belong. Looking at this crowd here, I know at least more than half people here have either visited a facility, either a health facility or a school. You went to a school that was being run by the sisters. And the kind of behaviors that have been nurtured in you have been seen even years later. So we work with the Catholic sisters in the community to ensure that the ECD components are actually inculcated into our community members. We also do a lot of advocacy at the national level, and I would like to appreciate the ECD Network for appointing one of the sisters as a member in their board, which gives them an opportunity to be among the key decision makers. And this is a challenge to all the partners out there. As we implement, let us just not do the implementation as partners, but be able to integrate all the stakeholders that we are working with, and especially the church or the Muslim leaders, because they are very key at the community level. I'll give an example of how, a very clear example, during the COVID period, most of you did not take your vaccines, right? Because the church said no. Same to HPV vaccine intake has always been low because the religious leaders were not for it. That shows you how much impact they have. And I'm really glad that with time we are embracing this. And in the ECD space, the religious leaders are moving out to ensure that whatever they gain from the capacity building, whatever they gain from the advocacy efforts is also implemented in churches. We have churches establishing breastfeeding corners for mothers. That is in Kisumu and Kakamega through the rooted advocacy, which is a good thing. We also have churches ensuring that they have established ECD centers, something close to what Cindy was talking about, which also shows that there's support from the religious institutions just to ensure that we engage and promote ECD. Thank you.
Wow, thank you very much. And I think you speak to a point that was raised by Waziri Naivasha around the need for us to mutually reinforce what we are doing as partners also. So I think that's a very, very critical point. But I just want to come to you, Martin. Please tell us whether offering childcare at scale in Kenya is possible from your Kidogo, the Kidogo enterprise perspective, and what does that mean for devolved governance, particularly so when you're working with the counties?
Yeah, just to introduce Kidogo, Kidogo is a social enterprise, not-for-profit social enterprise. We offer, our main work is training, mentorship, and quality assurance in our center, with the quality assurance. How we work. Aside from that, just recently we are in advocacy and system strengthening space for the realizing that we're working with this childcare center, we needed to understand the system. Just as a brief, so we are in 12 counties. I'm coming to the question. So what does it mean working? Is scaling possible? Yes. Scaling childcare is possible. But however, scaling solution for childcare is a little bit of a challenge there. So in the 12 counties, it means we were working with 12 county government. There's something that when I was coming here, I saw one thing that was written. It's 47 counties, one nation, right? So, so what it means as Kidogo, working with working with counties, it means in a devolved government, it means Kidogo reaching out to each and every county. Every county is dynamic in its own way. One of the things is understanding where childcare is domiciled in each and every other county. So one of the counties that we work with, just to give an example, Nakuru County, childcare is domiciled under the Department of Gender and Social Services. The CEO is, I think the CEO was around here. If you come to Nairobi, education. If you come to another county, is health. So you can imagine the challenge of working with those counties. So one of the things that we've leveraged is coordinated partnership that we work very closely with. We are a member of the ECD Network. So those are one of the things that we are leveraging in terms of the coordination that happens at the county level, multi-sectoral coordination at the county level. So it means us reaching out, understanding what does it mean. It means us understanding how is it coordinated from a county level. This is happening past us having, I'm very glad we have a PS for Children Welfare Services for the State Department of Children Welfare Services. And I think this is where now the alignment needs to happen. So those are some of the context, just to give a context of what does it mean. It's possible, yes, but with the current state of affairs, it's too cumbersome.
Okay. Thank you very much. I think what you're saying is that when we think about Kidogo starting off small and growing bigger, going to 12 counties now, and still growing beyond the 12 counties. So it's possible to actually take childcare to scale using models that have been proven and tested, like the one that Kidogo applies. And I think that is something that speaks to an earlier session that we had with the KMET team and the LREP team, where we were hearing about taking to scale some of these models. So I just want to invite at this moment in time, Lynette Kaloki, to tell us, in your experience, what are the main barriers to inclusive and accessible ECD services?
Thank you, Chair. So also to introduce Aga Khan, Aga Khan University Institute for Human Development. We are focused on human development, looking at the child, families, and the community at large. We are also focused in research. We also have a focus in training. And so in this particular case, we will be discussing project that we are working on, a study in the ASAL regions. And some of the barriers that I may say, and especially that are affecting the marginalized communities, number one, I would say poor infrastructure. That means if the ECD centers or childcare centers are quite a distance for them, and in particular in the pastoralist communities, for example, in Isiolo and Lamu, you'll find the communities where the centers are quite far. These children are really young to be able to access these centers. And the other thing is probably the road is not good. Probably the transport system is not in place for them to be able to access the childcare services. The other thing I would say is food insecurity. So they ask themselves, what am I going to get first? Am I going to take my child to an ECD center where I'm going to be asked for 100 shillings perhaps? Or am I going to get this child food or my family? So that is also something else that is really affecting the quality ECD and the accessibility and inclusion. The other one I would say is shortage of trained teachers. I think during our study, we were able to find out from some of these ECD teachers and caregivers, and some of them are just volunteers, especially in the remote areas. They're willing. Probably, for example, there's one lady who was courteous enough to give back to her community because she was trained by the community. She was taken to school by the community members. So in return, she said, then let me just come back and help these children. At least she had gotten to class 8. And so you see, that means she's also lacking education so that she can be able to support her community. And so for her, she was not trained. And probably there are many others who are not trained. So that is one area that could be improved on. And then the last one is cultural norms. So given the ASAL regions, there are different cultural and gender norms that are really affecting the accessibility of ECD. And I would say they do not, probably they do not value the ECD services, or perhaps they're looking at it from a point of how about this child can be able to go and take care of the cattle as opposed to going to school. So I think the cultural and gender norms are really affecting the accessibility of ECD. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, I think what I would like to say is that we are looking at this from practitioners level. These are people who are working with the communities, what they are going through, the experiences that they have gathered from the different geographies that they are working in, particularly so in terms of the counties. And I just want to hear from Sally here. What lessons have you learned that might be useful to counties, especially so when you're thinking about wanting to scale some of these programs that we are undertaking?
Well, thank you so much for that great question. What lessons have we learned? One, my background comes from working very closely with one of, I can arguably say, one of the biggest evidence-based parenting programs, Msingi Bora. And what has it taught me that I can share with all of us? It's an evidence-based parenting program. And given that it has been an implementation research as a randomized controlled trial study, there's larger improvement in parenting behaviors if we mitigate through parents. Msingi Bora is a curriculum that has 20 sessions that spans 9 months of sessions delivered by the community health promoters in the communities. We train them, we train the CHPs, and they in turn have community sessions with the mothers and the caregivers as well as the fathers. We let them teach various simple phenomenons like love, talk, play, wash, nutrition, which we call food. And through these 5 thematic areas, parenting behaviors begin changing. And they begin understanding, to help our child's or our baby's brain grow, we can do this, we can play with them, we can talk to them, and we can expand the learnings that they have. We're learning that there's need to have better father impact, male engagement. We're learning that given the modes of delivery that we use, in phase 2 of our RCT, we've had both in-person delivery, whereby the CHPs sit down with the mothers in sessions and train them. And also we've tried and tested, what if we do this remotely? What if we give mothers phones? And in these phones, when we're telling moms, you need to play with your child, let us record videos and show you how to play with your child. My baby is 6 months old or 9 months old. When you're telling me I can play with my child or I can talk to my child, how am I telling them stories? Through pictures. So using these modes of delivery, we are learning that we can incorporate parenting behaviors to moms, whether they're busy or not, whether they're in rural settings or urban settings. And these models of delivery are something that we are testing, and we are proving that it can work. Scalability on remote delivery is a bit challenging given, technology as a cost. However, the in-person delivery is working quite well, and we can sensitize more mothers through the CHPs to learn different and various parenting behaviors. We also are understanding that it's a highly costly, effective program. Many a times, various programs have been done And many people do not talk about what is the cost of actually trying to see whether this parenting program can be achieved. And Msingi Bora has been tested and tried, and it's highly costly effective. So I would say that these are some of the few lessons that we can pick and share with the larger stakeholders.
Msingi Bora. So we keep getting these new terms. There's Kidogo, there's Msingi Bora. We are we are doing everything we can to make sure that we actually get to the very basic level. So now let me ask you, Prof. Following the recent ECD systems measurement study, what are some of the key strategies that you would want to recommend to address the gaps that came out of that study? Take it from the level of coordination and financing, and then let us hear you.
Thank you so much, and our peers and all the protocol observed. First, before I even talk about the study, I know some of you are joining us for the first time, and maybe you have not interacted with the ECD Network for Kenya. So allow me just to take a few seconds to say what is ECD Network for Kenya. This is a membership organization, and currently we have 90 individuals and 20 organizations, giving us a total of 110 members. We focus on 3 key areas, that is advocacy, research, and coordination. So that is what we do as a network. Coming back to the research, the ECD systems measurement study, which we conducted since 2022, in collaboration with Mathematica, a US-based organization, and funded by Conrad Hilton, we were tasked to come up with a measurement framework to assess how financing, governance, and multi-sectoral coordination is happening, as well as policy in Kenya. And the study is happening in 3 countries, that is Kenya, Tanzania, and Mozambique. So in terms of financing, we had an opportunity to review financing documents in Kenya, focusing more on the budget implementation review reports. And we had 3 thematic areas that we were focusing on. That is financing early childhood education, financing primary health care, with a focus on promotive and preventive, and also financing social welfare. So at this juncture, we came up with the 2 measurement indicators. That is budget allocation, how much is allocated to, for example, early childhood education, when you compare allocation for the education sector. And I know at the county level, when you talk about education funds, we are looking at funds for going for pre-primary education and vocational technical training. That is what we were looking at. So in terms of allocation, we were able to do an average to see all the 47 counties. How are they allocating resources? For education, that is early childhood education, they were allocating between 2020 and 2024 an average of 34% of the education resources. In terms of expenditure, we noted that they spent and expenditure we were looking at between 2020 and 2023, because by the time we were collecting this data in 2024, still the year was running. So we dropped looking at how expenditures happened so that we don't give a false results. So we noted that the counties on average are spending between 65 and 72% for early childhood education out of the 34% that was allocated. Then the question we were asking, what is making the counties not to expend all the resources that they budgeted for? And later I'm going to share with you some of the reasons that we were given. In terms of primary health care, where I mentioned that our focus was more on promotive and preventive, we noted that the departments of health allocate an average of 13% resources to the Department of Health to promotive and preventive. And in terms of expenditure, on average, for the 3 years, they were spending around 73. Again, you can see it's like a quarter of the budgeted allocation was not utilized. What about social welfare? For social welfare, we noted that when it comes to allocation, we noted that they allocate 25% of the resources that goes for that department, and in expenditure, they spend roughly, on average, 63%. So, why is it that allocation is not so much, but even that little that is allocated is not being utilized? And during our dissemination for validation of the findings, that is one of the questions that we were asking. And some of the reasons that were coming up include, number one, there is a delayed disbursement. Since yesterday, this was the conversation, and even today in the breakaway of LREP, that was coming out. Number two, reallocation, maybe during emergency or during supplementary. When supplementary is happening and they are looking for where can we get resources for certain activities, the easiest place to get this is from those programs that are related to early childhood. But also what was unique to us is the fact that we discovered that it is not all the budget that has been allocated that is funded. For example, if you budgeted for 100 million for pre-primary education, it's not a must that you will get all that 100. Sometimes you get even 70% of that. And because of that, now if you are looking at allocation versus expenditure, then you will see there is a big gap of funds that have not been utilized, which did not come to that department. But also, we noted that not prioritizing early childhood related programs and wherever. It's like they come like the last resort. And that's why even when reallocation is happening, tunatoa hizo pesa wapi, kuna barabara hapa haijajengwa. So, there is some funds. But because of delayed disbursement, some activities that were planned are not able to be implemented. So these are some of the explanations that we were getting that really makes there is budget that is allocated, but that budget seems not to be utilized. But when you dig deeper, you realize some of the factors that influence that are beyond whoever that is handling those resources. So in a nutshell, those were the findings that we found.
Thank you very much. And I think when a CEO of finance, you can attest to the fact that the easiest place to go to when we want to move resources is to those that do not have a voice in the boardroom. Yeah, and that's an unfortunate situation. But I think the study tells us that we can do a lot more. And Madam PS, I'm sure when you come to speak to us, you will be speaking to how some of these areas you would want us to basically work together to change. As we prepare to exit the stage, I want to give each one of you a minute just to bring a highlight around the area of how to advance this inclusive, accessible and quality ECD services based on the work that you're doing with your individual organizations. We'll begin with you, Martin, just to as something that people can take home from you during this moment.
So our key, as an organization, our key take home, one of the key things that we should be pushing. I know from a government perspective, yes, we have our own ECD childcare center. From what we see, which is so good from Tharaka Nithi, and this might be spread out to other ECD centers. Mm-hmm. But on the other side, we have the community-owned childcare center that from Nature First, you saw from Cindy presenting home-based childcare center. Most of the centers that we work with are informal childcare centers, mm-hmm. which are the majority. So when we work, when we reorganize this, then what happens to them? please, let's not leave them out in this restructuring. In anything, in terms of financing, they need it. In terms of other service delivery, if they need it, yes, if it's from an aspect of health, all the other government services, these people do need it. And they're serving a very, very, very big population. So one of the biggest things that we've learned as an organization, if you take, for example, home-based childcare center, why do people go there? It's because they trust this childcare giver. And we know for sure, yes, for a provision, yes, there might be an integrated public ECD centers. But at the end of the day, let's relook at the solution that will not leave out the other people from the community-based childcare centers. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Martin. I'll come to you, Lynette.
Thank you, Chair. I think for us, we would look at it from the perspective of let's not forget the ones who are really marginalized. Even though we think, they're in the remotest of places, they're also equally going to benefit. Let's not leave them behind. Number two, as Aga Khan, we work with a lot of data, and this data is very important, and it can inform different decisions, and especially in infrastructure or even financing, budget allocation. So let's also not let that data just sit there. So that is what I would say from our end. So thank you.
From my end, I'll give my final words on two issues. First, focusing on community programming. We've been talking about children, and it's very key for us to realize that caregivers play a very big role. And from our experience, maternal and paternal mental health are key, and also strengthening relationships and marriages. This has a direct impact to the children. And once you do this with the caregivers, all the other components will just fix themselves. At the institutional level, this is a challenge to us. And when I say us, I mean everybody, because we are government. This is the very first time ECD matters are being discussed in a devolution conference 10 years later. Please let us audit ourselves the next time we are having such. It would be very embarrassing for us to talk about the same things again. So that is a challenge to the government. I know we've learned a lot, but let us audit ourselves. And for the partners, we will put you on track. Thank you.
Mine would be, during ideation and designing of programs, who is in the room? What are you thinking about? What is informing your decision? When you say PPP, private-public partnerships, yeah? What does that look like for you? Coming from a point of advocacy and having an opportunity to have worked throughout to see the national dialogues, which we call the ECD stakeholder conferences, and having an opportunity to train at the community level and do capacity building. The conversations need to connect. They need to connect at a point of, when we say policy and we're saying it has to be informed, are we ourselves informed? Also, are you mentoring the ones that are coming after you? Or are you staying in a briefcase silo with the information? Because the young generation that are coming to work in the positions that we are in also need to know and bridge the gap quite effectively. So they do not come with new things and leave innovations that are actually have been government-led for so many years because we want to come with a new idea, while in case you can just innovate what is existing. That's my take-home.
A few take-homes from the research finding. Number one, which was also mentioned by the earlier speakers, the speaker, Wachia County, ring fencing funds that are allocated to early childhood. And what do we mean by ring fencing? You know, it's one thing to use the term. It means setting aside funds for, if it's early childhood education, setting aside funds for that function. Number two, deciding the ceiling, how much should go there. Number three, coming up with a framework on how much should go where. I want to use an example for pre-primary education. If you have set a ceiling of 100 million, how much should go to material development? teacher payment infrastructure. When you ring fence this, you say 10% of the 100 million will go for infrastructure. If you exhaust that, then you don't go again looking material. There is money in the kitty of material. If we discipline ourselves, the county government, if you discipline yourselves and you say, this is the how much that will go. But what happens now? Funds for education comes. It is decided somewhere that now maybe out of 100 million to education, maybe 50 will go to early childhood. And again, this will also be taken to bursary. If we ring fence and we seriously do that, then we will safeguard and implement. But also holding those in those positions accountable. If they said they are taking 10% to maybe teacher payment, then how come more was used or it was reallocated? You know, so let us be serious. That takes me to the next point of having a framework. I don't know, maybe CEC Finance knows better than I do, but having a framework that is well known, suppose tomorrow is not in the office, and maybe I'm the one who has come in. Do we have a framework that shows, for example, in social welfare? And social welfare, by the way, was one area that gave us a challenge, because you go in like in Dorothy's county, she mentioned it in our department. You go to another one, it's in gender. You go to another one, it's... So tracking that expenditure becomes a problem. And I want to believe the executive order of 2025, number 1, now that all functions related to children have been taken maybe to the State Department of Children, maybe we are going to have some kind of order on how that social welfare matters are going to ask. So be intentional at the county level. You are the people who are going to make a difference. The time is now when you are in office and God has put you there to bring that change that we are saying. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prof. Could I request you to be upstanding? A big round of applause for this team. If there was a camera person, they would have taken a photo. I don't know if they are still there, but a big round of applause for them. It is them that I just wanted to be appreciated. Picha ndio hiyo inapigwa. Asante sana. Asante. Sasa mkienda chini mshukuru Mungu kwamba mmesema yale mlosema. Thank you very much. At this point in time, I know that we have really braved this session because many things have happened. But allow me to request you to stand so that we can do an ECD thing. Those of us who are in the room, as I invite Madam PS to come to the front and to speak to us as she makes her remarks. She'll be answering questions that she had before, but there are things that people have thrown at you. So at this point in time, tutapiga yale makofi ya kukaribisha Madam PS akija hapa juu, na hayo makofi ni makofi ya kilo kwa kawaida. Sasa Madam PS, sisi tunajua tu makofi ya kilo. Kama hujakuwa na kilo sawa, tutajua. Haya, 1. Karibu Madam. Uongee nasi kama wale ambao twafanya kazi na wewe ili kwamba tujue mipango ya serikali uliotutendea, utakayotutendea mpaka utakapofika. Bado tunakungoja tu.
To all the participants, good afternoon. So I would like to take this opportunity first to just highlight areas which, listening to the discussion that was ongoing, what can we do as a government? Because the presenters and the panelists were reflecting areas of gaps that we as government and the partners and the civil society and all those who are here representing various organizations are saying that we need to do for us to be able to improve matters of ECD. And looking at the question that I was requested, that what measures is the national government taking to support counties in fulfilling their devolved mandate for early childhood development and childcare, ensuring that all children have access to quality, affordable, and well-regulated services. So one of the things that I picked was from the studies that were presented by Nurture First and also listening to Kidogo is the issue of regulation, regulating childcare. And as a State Department, one of the roles that we have is policy formulation, setting up standards that can enhance quality and affordability of early childhood. And so I would like to state that one of the support that we can give to the counties is to assist in policy formulation and putting up standards so that the counties, as they come up with the children policy, then the standard is comprehensive. And I remember about 2 weeks ago, we invited counties through the COG to join us in improving the integrated ECD policy that was developed and reviewed by our cabinet, and this was returned for inclusion of emerging issues that are affecting ECD in terms of our children, safety of our children, looking at the providers in the space. And I believe through this collaboration, we are going to come up with a robust ECD policy that will also be rolled out all the way to the counties. So I would like to invite, because we have not completed this process, if we have maybe certain counties that were not represented in our earlier engagement, we had a 2-day engagement last week. I would like, through the chair, that we involve all the counties, if it is possible, for them to attend the next engagement sessions, which we are expecting should be in a few weeks' time, probably next week or in 2 weeks' time. We should be able to arrange for a session, an engagement session that will help us improve the integrated ECD policy. So that is one key area that we can support. And once we roll it, we expect that the counties will also look at their children policies and integrate ECD matters in their policy. The next area that I would like to highlight is on coordination. Putting up structures in place to ensure coordinating activities on in this space happens. We note that there are many players, and in the past, the government has not put so much focus on coordinating those who are acting in this space. And so we are coming in as the State Department for Children's Services, given that we have this mandate to also coordinate, that we shall establish a multi-level coordination system to ensure we guide on areas of support in terms of local communities and also at the national level. So coordination is key. And we will be also engaging various players. We have the ECD Network. We have also other players like the Joining Forces Alliance and all the players in the space. We want to ensure those who are dealing with children are known to the government. We know that there's a registration body. However, at the Children's Department, we have not had that coordination, and that is what we will be also supporting. And once we do this, because these players are working with the county, you find most of the activities are at the county level. So therefore, a county would ask us, do you know this organization? They want to engage with us. We want to ensure if you are engaging with the counties, you are also known at the national level. And this will ensure we are not dealing with those who are not accountable. It also brings accountability when dealing with the counties. The next thing that we as a government can support is on capacity building and technical assistance. We do have experts in terms of children officers who are located within the counties, and they can help to train the ECD teachers. The ECD teacher may be only trained on curriculum issues, and there may be some aspects that they require further training. For example, when Nature First was presenting the report, majority were asking they need training on nutrition, they need training on other aspects of the child. And so this is an area that we can support the counties to ensure the ECD teacher is comprehensive, is holistic in terms of the service that they give to our children. And even incorporating matters of child protection, because this is also key at the ECD centers. We can also support in terms of training of the caregivers for those who are in the informal settings, as she has pointed out. So on child protection, that is really key, because I believe that at the training level of the ECD teacher, before they qualify to be ECD teachers, matters of child protection are not given priority, but issues of curriculum are given priority when it comes to training. So that is one area that we can support as a government through the counties. And when it comes to resource mobilization and partnerships, again, this is one area that we feel that we can support the counties. We are talking of limited resources, and what came out during the discussions is that counties are enhancing their budgets and also now incorporating children matters. And resources are limited. For the counties to get the resources, this must come through the national government. It is a percentage of the revenue that the government collects that will be shared among the counties. Therefore, if we advocate for additional funding at the national level through alternative sources of funding, then the counties will also be able to get more funding, which can be channeled on ECD. One thing I want to encourage our counties, that when it comes to resource mobilization, we also need to involve the communities. Because this morning, as I was in another session, what was coming out is that the public also may not be asking for budget on matters of ECD. You find that mainly they ask for roads. And how do we come up with the budget? The people in charge of finance, I had Tarakanithi, the team from finance. What do they ask for? So we need to do a lot of advocacy to the community and also to our county assemblies for them to appreciate the need to focus their budget on matters children and not leaving to the other sectors, because this is where the problem will be. She was talking of some counties are allocating 18%, a very small percentage on
ECD matters. And majorly, the focus has been on infrastructure. Yes, they've been building ECD centers and also employing the teachers. But we see the aspect of the child when it comes to ECD goes beyond those two areas. Therefore, there is need for community involvement, matters of nutrition, matters of child safety in budget making process, advocating for funding towards those areas. And that is the only way we'll be able to enhance financing and also ensure it is inclusive to cover other areas of the children. As I close, and I've been asked to also give my closing remarks, I want to thank the county's representatives who are attending this conference. I have noted several counties who are very keen on ECD matters since my last engagement with this team in Garissa. And I want to urge that we bring on board many counties. We have 47 counties. I was expecting that each of them would be represented here. So we need to do a lot of advocacy, Chair, of the ECD network to ensure we are involving all the 47 counties in every conference we have. We should have representation because that is the only way matters of ECD will be taken seriously by all the counties. And that will help us address these gaps that we are talking about in terms of regulation and putting up standards. I would like to urge counties to think about inclusion, especially on children with disabilities, because this is a population that is being forgotten. I've visited quite a number of institutions, and you find these children are left mainly to a few people to take care of them. So we need to have a policy that is inclusive. We already have the Persons with Disability Act. Let us also incorporate this when it comes to ECD so that we give children with disabilities what they really deserve in terms of access to quality care, access to education, and access to protection. And if we do not do this, then we will perpetuate inequality. We will also perpetuate matters of poverty. And at the end of it, we are going to have a lot of costs in intervening. And so we need to save by investing in our children, especially when they are young, because the first 1,000 days is the most critical in a child's life. So therefore, as the State Department, we remain committed to work with the county governments to enhance quality care for our young children, especially at the age of 0 to 8 years, which is more critical in terms of their development. And we shall also work with the partners who majority are represented here to ensure every child in Kenya has access to quality, affordable care. And also we are enhancing regulation of childcare. And we will be inviting you very soon through our stakeholder engagement to come up with standards on childcare. Thank you very much, and I wish you a good afternoon.
Just the fact that government is showing commitment to the agenda of the early years, I think is something that we need to appreciate. Isn't that so? At least we have government in the main room, national government and also the county government. And we have had a conversation that allows us to go and think further about how we can engage closely. We are taking up your challenge. I know that today there was a competing engagement, and most of the CECs and the directors are actually in the launch of the policy that is happening with the Food for Education team. So that's why we have a smaller crowd here. But I just want to appreciate each one of you for making time, for coming into this room today and spending time with us. We have the communique being prepared. We would like to request that, because we know we are past time, that this communique will be shared with each one of you in your emails, because you've already given us your emails. And if you have not registered or signed up with us, please do so that we can actually communicate with you. Could we have sister? Njoo tufungie na maombi. Tutaomba sote tusimame tuweze kufunga kwa maombi. And Madam PS, asante sana for gracing the occasion, the CECs and everyone present. Thank you for coming in.
May we pray? In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. God our Father, we come before you once again this evening to give you praise and thanksgiving. Thank you for the moments that we have shared. Thank you for all that we have shared here as individuals, as groups. Lord, we kindly ask you just to give us that heart, so that we may be able to implement and to put into practice what we have shared, so that our children that we are trying to work for and work with may thrive. Good Lord, may your Spirit always guide us, so that the little funds that we have will always be directed to support these vulnerable children that we are trying to bring out to see your light. May your goodwill always guide us. Lord, as you depart from this compound, may you go with us. Those who are going to travel back to their destination, may you grant them journey mercies. We make this prayer through Christ our Lord. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Kwaherini.
Asante sana.